So here we go again, guys. Another video to answer a very important question that a lot of you are struggling with.
I found that nothing in life is worthwhile unless you take risks. Nothing. Nelson Mandela said, "There is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that's less than the one you're capable of living." Now, I'm sure in your experiences in school and applying to college and picking your major and deciding what you want to do with life, I'm sure people have told you to make sure you have something to fall back on. Make sure you got something to fall back on, honey. But I never understood that concept, having something to fall back on. If I'm going to fall, I don't want to fall back on anything. I want to fall forward. I figure at least this way I'll see what I'm going to hit. Without consistency, you'll never finish. So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances. Don't be afraid to fail.
What do I do if I have a skill? I'm very skilled, I'm very creative, but I don't know how to make money with that skill. Something that maybe I should just keep as a hobby for now. So this is something that I struggled with when I was graduating design school, and I wasn't sure if I should really take the full plunge or half a plunge or no plunge. So here's how I went about it. The first thing that you need to do in this case is you really need to pay attention to your priorities. Organize your priorities. Decide to yourself, how important is it to make money? If making money is your number one priority, then probably you should focus on a career that's more guaranteed to make the maximum amount. The other option that you have is to try to integrate some of that creative interest or skill that you're unsure about, or maybe you have some unique abilities or something like that, but you're struggling in terms of how to actually integrate that into the real world. My design eye comes in handy in my work when I design websites or when I give feedback on any kind of graphic or video or anything like that for a client. It's very useful that I have this type of background. Prioritize what's important to you. If money is important to you, there's plenty of things you can do to make money. If lifestyle is important to you, there's plenty of types of jobs that you can do that are less laborious and tiring and long and require a lot of hours. You want to make the best possible decision based on knowing yourself and your habits and really what it takes at the end of the day to make you feel happy and secure. Not to say that the only thing that you should be striving for is that, but let's just say you're the type that really experiences, health issues or can't function in an environment that's high stress or fast paced or something like that. It's just so unpleasant for you. Then you should definitely try to make it a goal to not go for something like that on a full-time basis. Now, there is a word for that type of stress, which is positive. So if you get a rush out of that type of environment and you find that you perform better when you have a tighter deadline, when you have somebody over your shoulder saying this needs to get done now. If you find that shorter deadlines and your performance when approaching a deadline is better, then probably you would be good working in a fast-paced environment or an environment that has that type of need to perform suddenly. So it could be where there's an emergency involved or there's something that's time sensitive that needs to get done. That would be probably a good place for you, and you'd probably find something that's profitable in that type of area. But if you find that you're more of a creative and you just have these sort of spurts that are sporadic and you like to work kind of on your own schedule and things like that, then you got to really figure out the right configuration for you. Now, as far as my personal trajectory and what I did when I realized that I had all these sorts of creative capabilities, I can draw, I'm just very good at problem solving, I very much enjoy music, I enjoy challenges and coming up with solutions that are creative. So I found an environment and a field really that allows me to leverage all my skills. and that is sort of multimedia, web-related environments involving content, whether it's text or images or videos or graphics or layouts or calls to action or anything in that sort of field is sort of my cup of tea. And I get to use my design degree there. I get to use my communication skills there. I get to use a lot of stuff that I enjoyed, that I studied about marketing, psychology of management, and all that kind of thing, and just my general experience as well. So I found the right sort of niche for me to sink my teeth in. But for those of you who haven't and are sort of at a interface where, you know, I have this skill, but I also have that skill, and then this one, maybe I could apply it like this, but I don't really know if there's a market or if I can make money like that. Now is actually a very interesting time to be in that position, because when I was in that position, there was barely even an internet to the extent that it is developed right now. There weren't nearly as many resources and platforms and communities and environments. Now there's so much more potential just generally for anyone, whether they're, you know, an employee, self-employed, entrepreneur. You have options, and that's a big problem, because we have a lot of options, and it's very tough to sort of sit there and say to yourself, you know what, yeah, for the rest of my life, I'm going to do this, because you know just as well as I do that in a couple of years, everything we know today, it's going to be out the window. It's going to be a different story. There's going to be completely other things that matter, completely other things that are in demand, completely other things that are important. Some things that are going to be commoditized, automated. We see it happening right now. So be ready to, they already said it a while ago, change careers every few years. So 5 years is now considered long-term, whereas a few years ago, your entire life was considered long-term. So there's short-term and there's long-term, and you sort of have to play the game in both that's right for you. And what I'll tell you from my experience is that you will fluctuate not in terms of just organically where the market goes, where the market decides to go. So you want to do this, but the market is saying, nope, this is what's in demand right now. And this happened with me when I was more on the graphic side, and then all of a sudden web development became popular, and then it's reversing now. It's like, okay, well, there's all this saturation of web developers, but now that, like, you know, AI and all this stuff is just taken for granted, it's just there in droves and everybody can do it. What is actually important now that's going to help a brand really stand out? So it's going the other way. So now what you need is that $1 million sort of creative. And there's no silver bullet or formula or anything like that, but you can see the ebbs and flows of the market and the peaks and valleys of every particular industry. We saw it with real estate. There was a huge peak in the real estate business. They were laughing. Everybody's laughing in real estate. I was laughing in real estate. Everybody who had any kind of real estate is laughing. It's skyrocketing. It's going to the moon. And this happened with a lot of other things too. So we saw what happened, right? So everything goes up and down and changes. And that's one of the things that going into this decision, you need to keep in mind. So you need to sort of look around today, take a look at what's actually happening today, and then you have to decide where this is going. So I noticed at a certain point where the web was going. I said to myself, the internet, web, online, websites, marketing, this is where things are going. And it changed because I went from traditional illustration to graphics, to print designs of marketing materials, to web design, to web programming, to web marketing. And that shift happened based on me following the market and applying my own core fundamental creative problem solving and love for learning throughout the whole process. So again, what's happening today? What really is important to you in terms of priorities? Is it money? Is it balance? Is it health? Is it time with your family, time off, time to focus on your hobbies, which you plan on keeping as hobbies? Or do you have a passion that you just want to blast out there and monetize somehow, make money with that for a living? So once you figure that out, you then have to look at what the market is saying. So the market, you're going to be saying one thing, I want to do this. You have to look at the market and say, what's happening? How can I get a piece of that market that is there, that's happening right now with what I want to do? The last thing you have to do once you've done those two things, so you figured out what you want to do, you figured out what the market wants to do, the last thing that you have to do, when I say last, like it's the only thing you're ever going to have to do again, What really needs to happen after that is you have to almost try to predict the future and say, well, we're here now, but we're going to be here in 5 years from now. So you got to really have some foresight here if you're going to position yourself properly. And what I mean by properly, it's a very, very key word here. It's properly for you. It's properly based on what's happening in the market. And it's properly based on where you see the market going. And all of this has to be based on your priorities. So just first, you ask yourself, what's important to you in life? 2, what are you good at? 3, what do you actually want to do out of that for work? Because you can make something your work that was once a hobby, but then what are you going to do when you finish working? You're not going to have a hobby anymore. So it's kind of a little catch-22, you know what I mean? Do you want to keep your hobbies and enjoy them, or do you want to turn it into commercial art, which is grueling, and you have to pump out a large volume of things about subjects that you're not necessarily completely passionate about? Are you going to go home and enjoy drawing as much? I don't know. So think about that one. And then you have to figure out which of those key ingredients and skills are marketable and can be applied in the near term to the market. And then you have to figure out which of those is going to be the longer lasting skill that is going to carry forward in the future years. And then you have to figure out in the future years when things start to change, when are they going to change, and what is going to happen? Where is everything pointing to, so that you can pivot? That's a very important word. So you have skills today. You plan to use these same skills tomorrow, but you might have to change either what you're doing a little bit, how you're doing it, or for who you're doing it, or when you're doing it, or why you're doing it. So you have to really be flexible and, again, adaptable, a very, very important word. And that's my advice for you if you're in that situation where you're trying to figure out what to do for work based on things that you really feel strongly about, that you enjoy doing, and also what is going to carry forward in the future market. I wish you all well in making this very challenging decision. I don't think you should listen to anyone other than yourself, because you're going to have your parents who are going to tell you one thing, and that's what they want for you. But at the end of the day, who has to get up and do the work every day? It's not them. They're probably already retired. Do what you want to do.
The only way to do it was to go outside the box. Don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to fail big, to dream big. But remember, dreams without goals are just dreams.